It's a good morning to you. Welcome to Asake Online. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and this is the Breakfast Club. Today in our program, we'll be talking about, I think, one of the most interesting topics that we've been talking about, or Zimbabweans have been talking about for the last few months, and that is voter registration. I always argue that for me, an election is not the day you go and vote. It is about the processes that happen before the election. Every year, whenever or every time we have elections, people complain that elections were rigged, this and that. But how many of us take time to monitor the processes from the time the whole election period starts? And as a Zimbabwean citizen who always complain about service delivery, economy, jobs, and all these kind of things, are you registered? Because the change that you are looking for, the better life that you always talk about, starts with you. It is you who's supposed to go out and elect a representative that you think is going to deliver the change that you want. It can be at a local level, it can be an MP, it can be the president. If you don't participate in these processes, then you are demanding the change from who? Because you didn't vote for the person that you wanted, or that the person that you want, the person that you think you're going to deliver change. So what we have seen over the years is that the number of people who are registering to vote are reducing, and a few people are participating, yet those few people elect people who decide what kind of Zimbabwe we're going to live in. So today we want to talk about voter registration, the blitz that is going on, why do we have low voter turnout, what can citizens do to make sure that the number of people who register to vote increase. And to help me discuss this topic or issue, I have Solomon Bobosibunu. Did I pronounce your surname right?
You did get it right.
I always struggle with your surname. So he's the programs manager at the Election Resource Center, and he will be talking to us about this. Solomon, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Said. Thank you, Asake team. Thank you for hosting the ERC.
So my first question is maybe quite obvious. Why should people worry about voter registration?
Thank you for the question. I think you, in your introduction, you alluded to why we need to register to vote. Number one, it gives you the opportunity to elect the leaders of your own choice. The person that you want, the policies that you want, the government that you want, the politics that you want, the schools that you want, the roads that you want. So basically, it starts with you taking the decision to register to vote. How then you vote, it's something else, but that right is actually provided for in the Constitution. So for you to exercise that right, you need also to register as a voter. So the Constitution gives the right to every citizen of Zimbabwe who is 18 years and above. And in that regard, it is important that you register as a voter so that you are eligible to cast a ballot whenever there is an election. This election could be a referendum, it could be a local authority election, it could be a parliamentary election, it could be a presidential election. Whichever election, you ought to be registered, and that's a qualification that is provided even at the regional level, the international level, and then Zimbabwe is no exception to that.
Your organization is the Election Resource Center. That gives me an impression that 24 hours a day, 365 days, you are talking elections, but we have elections once in 5 years. And someone will be saying, in between, what will you be doing?
Oh, thank you for that. I think elections are not a static event that we can say we are planning a mine entra, we are planning an agricultural show, and then the agricultural show will come to an end. An election is a process. It's a cycle where there is no end to the different processes. So when we start to see people registering to vote, we anticipate that there will be by-elections, we anticipate that there will be changes to the laws, we anticipate that there is voter education, we anticipate. So all these smaller activities are interconnected in a cyclic approach in such a way that there is no day that we can say we can't speak about elections. So if people are going to discuss the budget for Bulawayo City Council, for instance, that's directly related to an election, because a member of parliament or a local authority councillor is going to be sitting there. That's an elected position. Voter registration, voter education, civic organizations, conducting voter education, making sure that those that have turned 18 on a daily basis gets access to information so that they are also in a position to participate. So we can't say we are going to stop talking about elections. Even on Christmas Day, we will need to find time talk about elections because there are people that turn 18 on Christmas Day. Every other day of our life, we need to also be concerned about elections. But it needs to be progressive in the spirit of moving forward and also delivering development to the people.
You know, as far as I can remember from 1980, there have always been, issues when it comes to elections, disputes, allegations of cheating, unfair play, and all those kind of things. As people who have observed elections and working in the election field, what would you say are some of the challenges that Zimbabwe faces when it comes to elections?
So number one is the fact that we are constantly talking about the problems that we face during elections, but we don't proffer solutions in terms of what needs to be done to improve the situation and to not repeat the same mistakes that we made in the previous elections. And it's something that we need to acknowledge as Zimbabweans, that we have constantly failed to do that, or we have failed to take a step that will continuously improve our elections. So these discussions about reforms are important in that regard. Also, the other component is that people have always raised allegations of different challenges that they face in elections, but with no substantive evidence to also support that. So those are some of the issues that we also see. At times, political parties fail to field candidates everywhere, and when they fail to field candidates everywhere, you tend to then rely on either rumors, and it's important that political parties deploy throughout the process, because even at voter registration time, there are challenges that you face at voter registration, and you need to then proffer solutions on the basis of the observations that you have seen. During the voting process, the election day itself, you need to deploy everywhere. And then your agents or your observers are in a position to tell the situation on the ground, and you are also in a position to proffer solutions. So if we are unable to deploy comprehensively to see these processes, it becomes problematic for us to then say these elections are as a result of someone's fault. We are also at fault as Zimbabweans, and we need to take a step and say we need to resolve these issues and we need to move forward. Also, that the laws might not be favorable and they might not be aligned. You might also be surprised that there are laws that in certain statutes, and that doesn't are not referenced in the other statutes. So because we have the Constitution, we have the Electoral Act, we have the statutory instruments, we have regulations, these must be harmonized to speak to each other, so that when they talk of a requirement, the requirement is actually uniform throughout the different levels of statutes that we actually have as a country. So those are some of the challenges that we face, but there are so many of them, and we need to address those. There are also environmental challenges, where within the environment where elections take place, this is the political environment. The environment might not be conducive for a free, fair, and a credible election to take place. And this might include either abuse of inputs, farming inputs, abuse of food aid, abuse of the elderly, abuse of women, abuse of young people, because they have no jobs. So these are some of the problems that we face. And in every community that we have gone to, we have been Pikita, we have been Urungwe observing elections, you see actually see this, where inputs are used, where these other incentives are used to take the right of the person to make the right decision. So at times, these challenges are also not necessarily related to the law, but just within the political environment, electoral environment, where elections are actually taking place.
You know, you raise all these issues, and for me, I always say we have an election. Political parties complain that the election has been rigged and these things have happened. You know, the voter gets frustrated. Then the next election, we expect the same person who was told that the election was not free and fair, nothing happened, to go and vote again. Do these issues that political parties raise contribute to voter turnout, a low voter turnout, in your opinion?
Thank you for that. It's part of one of those contributory factors. So if you tell someone that there was a problem in the election and you have no solution for the problem, chances are that person will not likely turn up, because they will think the problem has not been addressed, so why should I go there? It's just like if you are going to Nkai and there's a breakdown, and then you disembark from the bus. Then the driver calls you again and say, okay, can you get into the bus? You have not seen a mechanic coming to address the bus. You have not seen anything being done on the bus. would you board the bus again to go to Nkai? You would definitely not. You would rather stay around or look for another alternative. So that's what exactly happens. If you don't address the challenges that you face, or you don't proffer solutions and include citizens, inclusion is very important. Citizens must be also at the forefront of calling for the improvements to the electoral process, to the electoral laws and the environment as well, so that they also have confidence that the process that I'm partaking in is a process that is legitimate, that is acceptable, that I can trust, that I'm very confident about.
So we have, I think today's ZEC launched a blitz where they're doing voter registration and encouraging people to vote. In your view, do you think people will turn out in their thousands to vote?
Thank you very much. I wouldn't want to discourage them, just like you were mentioning before with political parties as well. I would encourage citizens to go out in their numbers to register as voters. In the sense that this is a rare opportunity that we are getting after the 2018 elections. And we have had a huge youth voter population that has turned 18 during this particular period in time, and those that have been left out when the BVR was launched in 2017. So this is an opportunity for everyone. I would like to take this as an opportunity for everyone to make up again those that have not registered before, to take it to the registration centers that ZEC has thrown around the country. Take the opportunity, get your ID, your proof of residence. If you don't have it, ZEC will provide the affidavits at the different registration centers. Register as a voter, especially for those who are first-timers. And then also encourage those that have moved from different locations. I think we have been working with a number of people that have relocated. They were in Bikita when elections happened in 2018, and they registered in Bikita, they participated. Now they've been moved to either Urungwe or wherever they are. They need to transfer if they intend to vote in their new location. So they need to also take that opportunity. But we are also discouraging people from multiple registration that we have actually had, which is one of the things that we have had in the previous, not so many weeks ago.
I'll come to the issue of multiple voter registration that you've raised. But for now, what are the dangers if people don't register to vote?
Okay, thank you. So there are key activities or key events within an electoral process itself that makes it a process. So there's going to be what we are calling a delimitation of boundaries, which is the demarcation of local authority boundaries and the demarcation of constituents boundaries, which elects the member of parliament. Those are going to be demarcated. They are not going to be cut from 210 or increased from 210. They are going to stay constant unless there is an amendment to the constitution. So what it simply means is that the numbers that are going to be in Pumula, when ZEC decides to then take this demarcation of boundaries, the numbers that are going to be in Pumula will decide if Pumula is going to stay as a constituency. It's just as an example. So for instance, if Nketa or Nkulumane is about, say, 14,000, 15,000 registered voters, and the numbers of the surrounding constituencies is averaging around 26,000, 27,000, it is likely that Nkulumane might lose its status as a constituency, might be engulfed into other neighboring constituencies, and the voter population is spread into those. So it is important that if we want to maintain the 200 and the boundaries that we actually have, we need to have these numbers increased. But the increase in the numbers must be legitimate. The people that are increasing these numbers in these constituencies must be legitimately staying in these constituencies rather than those that are being shipped or imported from other constituencies or other local authority wards.
So I think for Bulawayo, I really want to emphasize this because I know that the number, I think 3 or 4 constituencies in Bulawayo have less than 25,000 voters. I think constituencies like Makwekwe has 14,000 registered voters. So if Bulawayo is not careful, if Bulawayo does not go out and register to vote, we might lose 3 or so constituencies. Already we are at 12. And if you lose 3, that means you remain with 9 or even less. And it means those some constituencies are going to be bigger. And also we've lost representation, we've lost constituents development fund, we've lost the number of MPs that are going to represent the area. So it has many consequences, and I really call out young people and even older ones in Bulawayo to go out in their numbers to vote. We've been preaching this gospel of, Bulawayo losing some constituencies for quite a while now. But we're not getting anywhere. We still seem to be having low voter turnout or registration turnout. What's the problem?
So the problem is different phases. One of the phases that it actually have is poor voter and civic education, or voter education that is inadequate, if I could say. Inadequate in the sense that this is supposed to be a continuous process. So if I turn 18, I get up to the point of getting up to 30, and you don't know what are the qualifications for one to be elected as an MP, as a councillor, or even to vote. There are people that have gone to either universities, that have started their own families, but they don't even know what is required. And you would notice that there are people that are undocumented, yet they are adults, they have their own families. It's also problematic as well. We have people that are undocumented, yet they are being counted. When census comes in, they count people that have stayed at a place. So they count everyone. They don't ask, do you have an ID? Don't you have an ID? They will simply ask, where did you sleep? How old are you? And all the other details that they're asking for. So you find that we have a higher population in a certain location, but the numbers of people that have actually registered to vote is lower. Why? Because these are part of the contributory factors. People are undocumented. So if I'm undocumented and I have 2-3 kids after me, what happens to those kids? They will still be undocumented. So we are creating a clan, we are creating a generation of people that have no documents. And once it's that situation, we are looking at a population that is higher, and they have adults who are over 18. And those over 18 who are not documented, they are not part of the system. We have also the issues of just the low morale to be part of the processes that relates to elections. In as far as people are afraid of the violence that relates to elections, of course, it has been going away in the past two sets of elections. But the threats, the intimidation that goes on in elections, the vote buying that happens during elections, all these things discourage others from actually participating in elections because they think that elections would not make sense. They are not going to buy into the ideologies of those people that are probably pushing for the agendas of violence, the agendas of these vote buying gimmicks, and then the intimidation that also takes place. So these are part of the contributory factors. And then also the utterances by political parties, just like we indicated at the beginning of the program, that if you tell someone that elections doesn't make sense, they will always be reciting that when they see the Electoral Commission trying to register people. When they see the election day comes in, they will stay at home and not turn out to actually even make an effort to go out and vote. Why? Because they've been discouraged by the people that they look out for. So our celebrities, our eminent people, our politicians, are they doing enough to encourage citizens to also go and register to vote? We see rarely an iota of that happening. We actually see them when there are by-elections like this, when they try to look for votes, but in between, they are not doing anything. They are doing very minimum around voter registration. But I can tell you that we have been to Kuadzana, we have been to different areas where we have seen in 2-3 different streets, you actually have a population of about 200 young people. We have turned 18, no documents. So what do you expect? How do you expect turnout to be higher when people are not documented? So voter registration does not only lie with the Electoral Commission, it lies with us as citizens of Zimbabwe. Am I taking the opportunity to encourage someone to go and register to vote? Am I saying when I get into that Zupco, talking to someone, say, are you registered even as a voter? When we are at college, are we even asking our peers, our friends, our schoolmates, our classmates, our desk mates, are you even a registered voter? You will be surprised that we have people that have gone all up to be 40 and then they start to want to register when they are 45 and they want to contest as a councillor. So you find that they don't even know the rules. They go to nomination court, they want to file for nominations, yet they have no people that have actually seconded them. Why? Because voter education is actually very low and probably inadequate, to be, I think, honest.
You raised two important issues, the issues of civic education and the issues of IDs. Let me start with IDs. I mean, if ZEC can go out and do a blitz on voter registration, we will still have people who want to register, but they don't have IDs. Why can the registrar's office also at the same time go out and do a blitz on IDs?
Thank you for that question. I think last year, 2021, when ZEC suspended the blitz voter registration that was supposed to start on 6 December, I remember so well that the statement that they shared with the stakeholders and the media was saying they want to allow the RG's teams to go ahead, issue IDs, and then they come after that to do the blitz. So I'm not sure if this process took place. We have to check, but it's one of the conditions because people are undocumented. This is why we are keeping on referring to identity documents. If turnout is going to be low, it might be as a result of that as well. Because young people that have turned 18 in 20 when COVID started, do you think they are documented? Chances are no, because there have been limitations in terms of the staff members that were actually going to the offices at the RG, up to the point where now you have to book to go and get an ID. So if you book today, you might be given a date of May. You might be given a date in April. And when you are given a date in April, is the blitz still going to be there? No. And then you are probably in Ward 23, Ward 3 of Lupane West, which is about 120 something kilometers away from Lupane Center, where IDs are issued. Are you going to make an effort to come to Lupane to get an ID and then also make the effort to come back to register to vote? At what cost? So we're asking the cost. What is the cost of voter registration in Zimbabwe? If the cost is higher, chances are we are likely to maintain lower registration rates. So if people doesn't have IDs, we are increasing their cost of registration. If people doesn't have accessible registration centers and ID issuance centers, we are increasing their cost of registration, and that's a problem.
Yeah, so you also mentioned the issue of civic education. That people get to 45 without knowing the processes. Who is supposed to do the civic education?
So in terms of civic education, it's our responsibility. If you read the Constitution of Zimbabwe, particularly Section 7, which is almost, I think, the second page of the Constitution, it says every citizen of Zimbabwe has a responsibility to make this Constitution, to make it as widely publicized as it can be. So it means it's my role, it's your role, it's everyone's role at site. It's everyone's role in Nkulumane, in Pumula, in Magwegwe, in Lobengula, to make sure that everyone knows about the Constitution. And once you know about the Constitution, it is going to speak about elections in Chapter 7. It's going to speak about parliament. It's going to speak about judiciary, the government. And then when you know about these things, you automatically know your responsibilities and you know when you need to come in and who to hold accountable for certain actions that would not have taken place. So it's important that civic education, we take it as citizens and as civic organizations. Voter education, those that have been given the mandate to do voter education, they must do voter education. So those are organizations that have been accredited by ZEC. The Electoral Commission itself, yes, the sole mandate to do that, and they ought to do it in full swing so that at least they know they leave no one behind as far as voter electoral information is concerned. But for us as civic organizations, we can provide electoral information, we can provide any other information around the Constitution, around the laws of the country, which those that are dealing with environment could look at environment, those are dealing with women's rights, those that are dealing with youth, children, the elderly, the war vets, everyone, we have a role to play according to the Constitution. But if we are not taking it up, then it's our fault as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the issue of civics education, then we talk about voter education. The moment we get to voter education, then we talk about registration, which becomes the process. How easy is it for an organization to go to ZEC and say, we want to be accredited to do voter education?
It depends with the mandate of the institution and the scope of the institution. Most of the times, the Electoral Commission has said to others, in your constitution, in your deed of trust, there is nothing to talk about elections. And in that regard, we are unable to accredit you to do voter education. And in that regard, it becomes difficult for those organizations that have no specific mandate to do elections. But what's wrong with an organization that is dealing with livelihoods in Cholocho, that is supporting women to do livelihoods, to get something out of their hands, to then say, once we are done with our cooperative business, can we also get the opportunity to talk to you about voter education? You see, for me, that's my thinking. I'm also a Zimbabwean. I'm free to suggest. because it's also part of a constitutional right that I have. I can suggest certain things. So why should you limit this cooperative that is dealing with livelihoods to say you have nothing that says elections in your constitution, so we are not going to give you this mandate?
Especially where we say, the elections involve everyone. So I might be distributing food, but at the end of the day, I work with communities who vote. So this exclusivity and the whole process of saying someone can do voter registration, someone cannot, really, does it work?
Yeah, it doesn't work because we want to say access to communities. Who has access to communities? And those people ought to be providing that. If the commission or whoever, the responsible authority, is not in a position to supervise the people that have been accredited, is it the problem of those that have been accredited, or is the problem of the institution that has given them accreditation? So it is important that we re-look into this, we rethink the approach, because we need to make sure that everyone is involved. If we are talking of disability and we are saying, let's include people with disabilities, and we include them into the voter education, why can't we just include those that are dealing with environment? When they talk about the environment, don't pollute the environment, go and register to vote. These are the requirements. What's wrong with that? So these are the questions that we actually ought to then reflect as Zimbabwean citizens, but not to also be very stagnant, not to be praised on one corner and then say, we are done, we are not going to accept these people. I think we need to reconsider that. And the media, you also need to play your part around that, imparting information around voter education and elections.
Let me talk about something that other NGOs or civil society found quite offensive. Zeke said that the reason why they have challenges with multiple voters, or people vote twice or thrice or register, multiple registrants, is because the NGOs are offering incentives, and therefore you contribute to that. What's your response to that?
I would not probably want to speak on behalf of all the NGOs or anyone, but I would like to probably, as a Zimbabwean citizen who is also concerned, if civic society organizations are seeing a gap in terms of the opportunity for people to register to vote, and they come and facilitate access, because the issue has been 72 centers accessible to a population that is spread in the whole of Zimbabwe. Naturally, you would see that it's not possible. Of course, if we go to the law, it will say we have set up this 72 and there is continuous registration. But practically, how is it possible for someone to travel 123 kilometers in Lupane to go to Lupane Center to register as a voter? That's just impractical. So if there's someone who says, okay, can we facilitate these people to access Lupane faster so that they register to vote, they are not frustrated, then is that a problem? If there is incentive, what are these incentives? A t-shirt is incentive. A flyer is incentive. Why? Because a flyer and a t-shirt, a flyer is meant to motivate me. A t-shirt is meant to motivate me. Probably a coupon is also meant to motivate me to register as a what? As a voter. So these are motivations, and I don't think I see any reason. If you are printing a flyer and you are sending out, you are giving an incentive, you are giving information so easy for someone. Otherwise, they should have gone on the internet to search on their own. Otherwise, they should have traveled to ZEC to get information. So all these are incentives, and I don't think there could be a problem with that, because it's motivating people to undertake the process, because they are not interested in this process for whatever reason. We don't want to go all out to speak about this demotivation. It might be about confidence. It might be about the processes that are flawed. It might be about people that are not motivated to also register people. So if I get into a registration center and there's no one, yet I have used my money, who is going to reimburse me for that effort? So this is why there are these incentives to actually motivate citizens to go out and register to vote. And once they are motivated and they've registered, we need to keep engaging them to say, now we have registered. Remember that there are by-elections in your area. Now that you have registered, there is delimitation. When stakeholders are being consulted, remember to go out. So we have actually activated a citizen to be part of the process itself, which should not be a problem, unless if there are people that doesn't want certain populations or groups to actually be registered. And yeah, I think they'll be justified.
Lastly, the issue of accreditation and the way the relationship between NGOs and government, brings me to the issue of the proposed NGO bill that seeks to put everyone under the voluntary, non-governmental organizations. As ERC, what's your view on this bill and how is it likely to affect you?
So it is difficult for us to pinpoint exactly, but we have rights that are given in the Constitution. We believe that the NGO bill seeks to limit that, seeks to put restrictions on that, seeks to put a burden on that. So you can't then want to police everyone who is doing their work. So if we are a voluntary association, we should be allowed to operate. We have rights that are in the Constitution. What's wrong with the current arrangement? That's the question that we are even asking. What's wrong with the current arrangement where trusts are registered and people operate as a trust? So this could be an overregulation. That's from our perspective. It could be an overregulation. It could be good in a way if there are problems. What is the mischief? What has been the problem that they want to address? We has been affected. We has gone to those that are actually proposing this NGO bill to say, I have a problem with site. I have a problem with this person who is registered as a trust. They've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to me. And I believe that they ought to be regulated in this way. We has done that. So we can't be proposing these things from the boardroom. We need to be getting these mandates from the people of Zimbabwe. The people of Zimbabwe are the ones that proposed the constitution in 2013. It was signed on 22 May 2013. It has rights where we can form associations, we can form trusts, we can operate from anywhere where we want to operate. So why do we want to limit these constitutional rights that have been given to us by the Constitution of Zimbabwe? We don't see any reason in that, and it will create so many challenges for those people that are already operating by over-regulating them, by looking at the unnecessary issues that happens. There are always fights. In the political parties that we have, there always have fights. There are always challenges. In the civic spaces, there will always be challenges. But is over-regulation the answer to that? It might not be the best answers to that particular issue.
Mr. Solomon, the programs manager from ERC, thank you very much for taking this time to share with us a lot of quite interesting and insightful points on the issue of voter registration, but also the space. Zimbabwe is one of the areas that I think is overly regulated, and also, where NGOs are not seen as partners with government, but as enemies. You are called regime change agents, agents of the imperialists and whatever. But if you look at the service that is provided in most, be it education, be it hospitals, even contribution to the national budget, a lot of non-governmental organizations bring in a lot of money. But also, let's not forget that most of these people who bring foreign currency are also NGOs. And the 2% that Mtuli and the Minister of Finance takes, there is a lot of benefit that NGOs bring. A lot of people who are in the livelihoods, feeding many families across the country, providing health facilities, education, and of course I talked about tax. You are taxed a lot of money every year. How many people are employed by the NGO sector? So I think there should be a time where government should see NGOs as partners rather than enemies. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and today in this program we're talking about voter education, and I want to once more emphasize that please, if you're not yet a registered voter, go out and register to vote. And leaning up or before people have breakfast or at dinner, people should bring their voter registration slip before the mother in the house dishes food. No voter registration, no supper. My name is Zenzele Ndebele. Till we meet again in other programs, have a good day.